Where did your entrepreneurial journey start?
When I was in second grade, my mom put me in private school. The fear of not knowing what to say when someone has objections, the fear of looking dumb, or the fear of word vomiting or saying all the wrong things. So even the most highly trained sales professionals who seem natural at it, they have all those fears too. The number one indicator of sales performance is for an individual is their internal psychology.
How did you first like cold calling when you started?
I loved it. That started my journey of self-development.
Do you think that naiveness got you?
I don't really feel like doing anything. My belief is that a company can only grow to the level in which that founder grows in their internal psychology. To make a product better is to acquire more customers and get their feedback. The only thing that is holding you back is something internal.
What would you say is one aspirational thing that you would like listeners to hear?
So if you're resisting something that you know you should be doing, you must do it. Take action anyway.
Hey guys, welcome back to Funds and Founders. Today we have on Brian Mayoral. He's been an avid sales manager and leader from early on in his career, and he's been the number one peak performance strategist for Tony Robbins for roughly over 5.5, 6 years, and is currently the CIO and founder of his agency called SellUp. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Let's go. Let's get after it. Yeah, man. So I was the Tony Robbins guy, now running my own business as a founder.
Let's just get into it, right? So I like to ask my guests, where did your entrepreneurial journey start? If you were to find a key moment or point in time where you would say that sort of spirit kicked into you, when would you say that is?
The spirit kicked into me when I was in second grade. My mom put me in private school. She was a single mom, and so she needed to find a way to give me some structure in my life. And she could barely afford it, but she put me in private school. And I remember sitting in the pews, and Pastor Plug was giving a sermon. And I remember seeing the way that he moved the entire audience to tears. And I remember getting chills and saying, I'm going to have that kind of impact in the world someday. So although I didn't know it would get to the point where it was entrepreneurship, I knew that my life was going to be built off of impacting other people in a non-conventional way. And so that sparked the interest, and my entire life has been breaking rules and not following the rules and getting in trouble in school and the whole thing. So I don't think I was ever really built for conventional, and that over the years it just kind of continued and growed over the years, and finally get to do it, man. I'm excited.
What would you say was your first venture as an entrepreneur?
My first venture as an entrepreneur, I was actually a junior high school PE teacher through 2014 through 2018, and I hated it. Like I love kids, and I love making an impact in people's lives, but I could not stand the fact that it was like clock in, clock out, fixed income. I mean, I had maxed out how much money I could possibly make as a teacher, and I ran numbers, and it was like, this isn't going to work. But I stayed in it far too long because I was afraid of doing anything outside of what was conventional, because no one in my family is entrepreneurs or work for the private sector. So I started wanting to get into real estate because it's the first idea that everyone tells you, oh, if you want to be rich, everyone owns real estate. So I'm like, oh, I'll go do real estate. So I took my test, did the whole thing, took all the classes. That's where I first learned how to sell. And then my buddy started a company called Tailgator, where he had the patent on tailgating on the back of your car, like a full setup that gets hitched to the back of your car. So we would travel around the country on the weekends. I'd get out of school at 3 p.m. on a Friday, get on a flight, fly to Alabama, and then go to different college groups in Alabama. And that was in 2015 or so. And so we would start selling these from the back of the car in 2015. So that was my first entrepreneurial venture.
Nice.
And it's just been kind of iterations of that since.
What do you think drew you towards the sales aspect of it? And why sales?
I think it's something I'm naturally good at. I think because I had parents that were divorced and had step parents, and because I was really natural at school but never really cared to be the A+ student, I would always find myself at the end of semesters convincing my teachers to give me an A, or what do I have to do in the last 3 days before the semester's over to get a better grade. And because my dad was a head football coach, I saw the way that he was able to influence other human beings to perform at their best. And I was always drawn to leadership type roles. And I emulated my dad. I emulated people who were in leadership positions, and found myself whenever I was in a pinch, talking myself out of it, whether I was getting in trouble in school or convincing teachers that I should get a better grade. I found that the thing that always got me to that next step was influencing other people to say yes, selling candy in school, the whole thing. So never knew that I was going to have a career in sales, but because I kept getting reinforced throughout my life, this is something I'm pretty good at, and I didn't care for studying in a traditional way, I naturally gravitated towards a skill that I kept getting rewarded with, which was learn how to use the skill of influence to get a yes.
What's one or two things you learned from the Tailgater experience, flying across country, trying to sell to that audience? Is there one or two things that stand out that were like monumental in sort of your journey or understanding just the concept of sales? Because I feel like a lot of folks are either very afraid of sales or they're like very good at it and they like take it head on, right? And so,
yeah,
what did you learn in that?
Yeah, we've actually done a survey of over 650 sales professionals, and we asked them what are their biggest like roadblocks to being successful in sales, and they say the traditional things: I need better leads, I need a great product. But then after those first couple, in order, they go the fear of being rejected, the fear of not knowing what to say when someone has objections, the fear of looking dumb, or the fear of word vomiting or saying all the wrong things. So even the most highly trained sales professionals who seem natural at it, they have all those fears too. So I have those fears. I still have those fears, which made me deathly afraid of not doing it the right way and not being successful at it. So the type of sale that we teach is integrity-based sales that have a high LTV for clients. So Tailgater was my first awakening that I can do things outside of the box. I can't do things outside of the traditional working for the government. So I think if anything, it installed in a belief inside of myself that I didn't have to go the same rate that my parents went, even though they didn't approve of me doing something else. The second was that even people who had parents that taught them the skills of business, that they weren't afraid of money and they weren't afraid of going after their dreams, I was better equipped to get more yeses than they were because of my tenacity and almost arrogance, not knowing, or ignorance, not knowing what I was doing. I just did it. And I think that dumb, just action taker, I was like, oh, wow, like I'm actually better than the people that I used to think would be better because they had a different upbringing than me.
What was the journey with Tailgater? Why did that end, or why did you move on from that?
Yeah, so the person who actually owned the patent when we first got involved in that company, I was supposed to be a minority owner in that company. Turns out that the patents that he said he had, he didn't have. And it turns out the licenses that he said he had for the NCAA and professional sports teams, he didn't have. So the investors in that company were like, we're over this, we're out. So that kind of dissolved naturally. And I was still a teacher and had the backup. So I continued on the real estate path outside of my, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. teaching job.
What were you doing on the real estate side?
I was just taking classes, and I was actually doing weekend shows for realtors that didn't want to show up for their open houses, and then doing cold calling after work. So after work, I'd go to the real estate office and just do cold calls for another realtor.
What's one thing people misunderstand about cold calls? I've chatted with a lot of folks about this, and everyone has a different opinion on how to approach it, what to do, and like process, no process. And what's one thing you've learned?
I'm going to give you probably a different one, because everyone's going to say it's a numbers game. Everyone's going to say you just got to do it. Everyone's going to say it's all about the script. Everyone's going to say it's all about the person who's doing the cold calling. And I would actually say that it's about the psychology of the sales professional. I think the number one indicator of sales performance is for an individual is their internal psychology. If they don't know how to, like, one tactical thing is what's called the rebound effect. I don't know if anyone's coined it, but let's coin it right now. The rebound effect, meaning how quickly can you go from objection to getting in an elated state or getting in an excited state for the next call. Because it's not just about making 100 calls. It's making 100 calls with extreme enthusiasm, like extreme ownership of this is the best call that I'm going to make, regardless if I've gotten kicked in my ass the one before. It's how quickly can I get to a rebound time and get to excitement. Number two, it's all about having demanding certainty on that sales call. So people will call it confidence or demanding certainty that I'm not going to get off this call until I get my outcome. And then 3, it's the ability to be persuasive and to be able to hook that client or customer. So all the numbers things matter and the tactical things matter, and going after the right market matters, and having a great list and clean data and all that matters. And from a sales performance standpoint, that's where we shine, is how do you get that sales professional to be extremely confident in what they're saying, to have massive certainty, to their internal psychology dialed in, and how quickly can they get in those rebound times to get to the next one, as well as how influential can they be on that sales call from a skills perspective. That's what we focus on. So I would say those 3.
How did you first like cold calling when you started?
I loved it.
Did you have success? Did you not have success? Or
yeah, I loved it, man, because it was way out of teaching. Because for me, being in a situation where I had no control over my future other than more years as a teacher. So for those of you who don't know, the only way to get paid more as a teacher is to take more college credits, but those max out at some point. Then the next best way to improve how much you make as a teacher is to be there for longer periods of time. So when I realized that I had maxed out the credits that I could use, there was no more control over my future other than working more hours, like after hours and coaching, which I did. The fact that I could make a call and constantly improve and constantly get better gave me control over my future. It gave me control over how much money I can make. And I felt successful just doing something different outside of teaching. Again, just so naive that I just didn't know any better. I was just like, if I have this gig outside of teaching, I can make 100, 200, 500 extra bucks. Like, that's great money for a teacher. So I was just, dumb and going for it.
Do you think being naive has given you a superpower in the journey? Because I feel like personally, if I'm going to approach something, I'll analyze every aspect of it, like what's good, what's bad, how is this going to work or not work. And I feel like a lot of folks do that, whether it's a startup, a business, or whatever they're doing in life, right? People tend to overanalyze, over optimize.
Yeah.
Do you think that naiveness got you to where you are today, and like just the raw, like, I'm gonna do that, I don't care?
Yeah, it's beautiful that you're that way, and I think that analyzing things, depending on the role that you have, the type of skill set that you have, is gonna have strengths regardless. I think it's matured for me from just being naive and dumb and just taking action to now it's like I take action anyways, despite, right? So this has got a 10% chance of working out, do it anyways. Or I don't really feel like doing it, do it anyways. I know that this will benefit the company 5 months from now, but I don't really think this is the right move, like right now, but I know it benefits us 5 months from now, do it anyways. So I think now it's matured into, now I have the vision to see where the company is going, what is necessary, and now I have the ability to take action anyways. That's what it's matured into. And now, as you know, as a owner and a founder of a business, you can't just be an action taker without it being a thinker.
Yeah.
So over the last 3 years on my journey, I've developed the skill of analyzing things, getting to clarity, and then taking action despite the fear. I think as anyone would know, there's limitations to anyone's psychology. Are you a believer in that the company only grows to the level of the founder's psychology? Or do you subscribe to a different version?
But I love the way you said that of analyze, but still take action, regardless of the fear. Really well put, though.
Yeah. So as the visionary of a company, let's just say the CEO or the founder of a company, my belief is that a company can only grow to the level in which that founder grows in their internal 100%. Psychology. So I subscribe to, anytime there's a fear coming up for me, I got to differentiate, is this a fear because this is a dumb decision for the business, or is this a fear because I don't know if we can handle it? If it's I don't know if we can handle it, I do it anyways because I know we'll figure it out because we have the type of people to figure it out. But if it's like I'm stuck between 5 different decisions at once, that's where the thinking brain comes on. And that's where I try and get brain and heart coherence around which of these decisions is best, seeking consultation from people who have been higher levels, so on and so forth.
No, but I agree. I definitely think that the founder's limitations are going to show in the company's limitations, whether that's psychology, whether that's lack of knowledge, whether that's fear, I think those end up showing because you take risks accordingly, right? You only take risks you're able to digest. You only take risks that you think are going to pan out. And so I 100% agree that the founder's mentality and psychology determines the growth of a company.
Cool.
I also think from like a more tech startup perspective, some founders have certain limitations that they're good at, right? So this example of going from 0 to 1 million and 1 to 10 million and 10 to 100 million, I think all require very different skill sets and very different just fundamentals. Very few CEOs are like 0 to like 1 trillion. I think Mark Zuckerberg's the only one I'm aware of that's gone from 0 and led the company through till a 1 trillion. At every other company you see, they'll have a CEO switch at some scale because there's a lack of, be it knowledge, skill, or just psyche. You got to take bigger bets. You got to set up different processes when going from 10 million to 100 million. But going to 10 million is very different in a journey. And also understanding you have those limitations, I think is good for you to then figure out, hey, am I still the right person to lead this forward? Totally. Because maybe sometimes that's probably going to be the cause of concern.
Totally makes sense. And what do you believe is the difference between 1 to 10 million versus 10 to 100?
I think just scale and thinking big and necessity of important processes. I think up till 10 million, you can get away with okay processes. You know, you don't have, not everything needs to be ironclad, but when going from 10 to 100, you definitely need processes and you definitely need solutions that scale. Solutions to 10 million, they don't necessarily have to be the best solution, best process, but it works, right? It gets you there, signs the customers, gets you the scale. Going from 10 to 100, very different scale, very different approach. And depending on how high of an LTV your customer has, again, very different process. Are we talking 10 more customers to get to 100 million? Or are we talking a million more customers to get to 100 million, right? Very different scale. And I think that's where some people fall short, is the ability to think big enough and set up the process big enough and think far enough. Like, what's the impact when I run this sales process or this product process across 10 teams? Does it still work? Does it still scale? Does it still have the same impact? Do my customers still grow and like the product the same way? A lot of ways to think about that.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that, well, let me ask this question. Outside of product market fit and developing an exceptional product, what is the number one skill set that is required to get to 10 million?
Sales. And the reason I say sales, I mean, there's probably two ways to put this, but what is sales and customer empathy? I don't know if customer empathy is the right word, but the way I see it is a founder needs to understand what problem they're solving.
Yes.
And if that problem is good enough for the customer. And when you're talking to the customer, can you sell them the outcome, not the product, not the features? You want to know that, hey, this customer has this problem and my solution is how to solve their problem. Yes. And being able to convey that. Because anyone can convey a feature set. Anyone can convey how fancy a product is. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't solve the customer's problem, you're going to get stuck in these back and forth of, I need this, I need that. Yeah. And those two skills combined, I think, are very important to get to that point. I say that being solution-driven is not going to work. You got to be problem-driven and customer-driven, right? And being able to bridge those two, I think, are very important.
Yeah, I would say the number one problem that I see from companies that we go on and work with is there's a balancing act with some CEOs are product CEOs, other CEOs are sales and marketing CEOs, other CEOs are just visionary, some of are manager types, right? So regardless, there's always this balancing act between, we got to make the product better, but the number one way to make a product better is to acquire more customers and get their feedback.
100%,
period.
100%.
So it's like the number one thing that I see with entrepreneurs that are probably to that $1 to $5 million mark is, we got to make the product better before we sell it. And my argument always is, No, to make the product better, you have to acquire more customers who would give you real feedback, not just theoretical
100%.
feedback.
100%.
And I think a lot of entrepreneurs and companies make that mistake.
And I think that's where you can see the difference of a seasoned founder versus not, where a lot of people will go sell the vision, get them to pay, and then be like, hey, let me go build this. Because,
1,000%.
10 people have told me they
Guilty.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that is a very key skill. And sometimes you just got to put in the repetitions and understand that that's how you have to approach building. But no, I 100% agree with what you're saying.
Can I give you an example of where we're in that exact situation right now?
Yeah.
So after leaving my tenure with Tony Robbins and reaching the top of that career and then starting this company, we were 100% a sales education and sales training company for all types of companies. Trained Lemaire Cosmetics, Celebrity Cruises, T-Mobile, the #1 fastest growing company. Like, we got into some really great companies because of I was Brian from Tony Robbins. And then we also tacked on the agency about a year and a half ago, where other companies who have a service-based business will use our sales team to sell for them rather than building their own to get to 10 million, because we can do it faster and better and we can do the training. Now we're in a place where we want more scalability with our sales training, but we don't want to compete with all the sales trainers out there. Despite my background with Tony Robbins and all the things we've accomplished, when someone sees us online, they don't know all that, right?
Yeah.
So until you get them in the sales process, you don't differentiate yourself. So what we've gotten into now and what is going to absolutely blow up for us is we are going to start a tech play, but we're launching that probably by the end of Q4. One of the things that we're doing now is I have access to over 70,000 college students through my partnership with a very solid partner who have all either had college jobs in sales or want to go into sales. So out of those 70,000, we're probably going to weed it down to about 10,000 who are like real and honest and want that kind of work. And we now, because we have all these relationships with companies that I've gone into, some really reputable companies, we're going to be training and certifying and placing those college graduates into reputable companies for a career, not just a 1099 sales job, but a reputable, long visionary career. We're in the middle of that right now, which means I have access to the 70,000 college students, but we haven't trained them yet. I also have access to the companies, and one of these egg or chicken has to come first, right?
Yeah.
At some point, I have to make a promise to either side that hasn't been figured out yet. Yeah. Meaning, I can go to Lemaire Cosmetics, or I can go to Celebrity Cruises, or I can go to a bunch of tech companies that I know, and I can say, all right, we got college students that are going to be graduating in our program by the end of Q2, and you'll have at least 10 to 15 available to choose from for your next batch of hiring. I have to promise that to those companies before I've trained those sales reps. Because if I train the sales reps, they're not going to sit around for 4 months waiting. So this is the exact situation that we're talking about, the founder's dilemma. I have to make that promise, but I also have to have the confidence knowing that I can deliver on that. So where I think really floundering entrepreneurs fail, and again, I haven't had it all figured out. I'm not speaking from I'm still figuring this whole thing out. But I know we're really effing good at sales training. Like we get referrals from almost every single one of our customers or testimonials. I've also gone into reputable companies who refer us. So now the question is, I know I'm good enough at the sales training. I know our company can deliver on the sales training. Have we done it specifically for college students yet? No. Have we placed people into companies yet? No. So those are the two question marks. But what's not a question mark is, do we have reputable companies and can we do great sales training? Both of those, I think, are the pillars that I can anchor to as an owner and say, I know how to do those two mother effers better than anyone. Okay. So now the two question marks have something to fall back on, an actual skill set. I think some entrepreneurs will take action, and this is the ones that you always see get in trouble, who make false promises and then get arrested. They've never actually done at least one of those pieces before, and they're trying to figure out all of them. I think you have to be really good at a few things and
100%.
then tack on a few more things after that. 100%. Not try and just start from scratch every single time. So that's where we're at, and we're in the middle of it, man. Like we're a company that's grown 230% year over year, and we're bringing on new clients all the time. We're bringing on new sales reps all the time for our business. But this is a massive question mark, but it's going to be the future of our company. So in the next 3 months, I'm literally making this bet right now. I'm having the conversations now. I'm like, no, we'll have people for you. And now I got to go tell the college students, no, we're going to have companies for you. So I have to make those promises before the deliverable comes.
100%.
There's no other way around it. And every successful business owner that I know is willing to make that fucking bet on themselves. And I'll die on our reputation doing it, but this is an example of what we're talking about,
Yes.
I think.
Yeah. No, I think understanding the spot you're in is also something a lot of people don't do very well, right? Like the way you just described and analyzed your position, knowing what you're doing, you're conscious about the decision you have to make, the potential risk. I think a lot of first-time founders and people early in the journey are very oblivious to these situations. They don't look at them the same way, right? They're thinking very tomorrow, next week. They're thinking very binary decisions. Not everyone's thinking 3-6 months, Q4, Q6. Like no one's thinking 2-3 years ahead. And I think having that maturity itself also comes from a place of you've been through you've made some mistakes, you've been there, you've done some things that don't, and you like learn every time you do that, right?
Can I piggyback off what you're saying?
Yeah.
So I think one of the biggest shifts before, like, we've graduated from survival mode as a company, and now we're in like, how do we fine tune, tweak, and go into thriving? And I noticed the number one indicator of leaving survival mode and going into thriving mode was when you talk to somebody and how far out they're starting to plan. Right? Like I have a buddy who just started a brand new cowboy boot company. He didn't start it. He's 5th generation, but they dissolved and now he's bringing it back to life. A product-based company that sells D2C, they have to be thinking 16 to 18 months out. He has to do that. That means he has to have funding for that. For a company like ours, where we don't have a physical product, it's a training-based company or it's a deliverable on human beings, we didn't always have to think that far out. But I noticed that once the cash coffers were being filled, I was able to breathe and lift my head up and actually see the vision again, because I wasn't thinking about today, tomorrow, and next 100%. Week. And I think when you speak to a founder, you'll know where they're at financially or where they're at in terms of survival and thriving mode based off of how far out they can vision and start to think tactfully about it. Because you always have those founders that they can dream all day long, and they can go into fairy zone, and that's great. But can they tactically see how they're going to get there? You always, like, one of the things that I look for when I'm speaking to someone to partner with is, are these amazing ideas 5 years from now? And then I ask the question, like, how do you plan to get there? And if they can't answer that question, I don't want to get involved and I don't want to invest, because I've invested in a few different companies from my background in Tony and stuff. And then the other is, are they very tactical but have no vision? I think where the company can have success is where they have the tactics and the vision and the strategy.
100%. How do you think about, so you mentioned two things, right? Like going from survival mode to thriving mode, right? When did you realize you were able to make that switch? Was it a certain level of revenue? Was it a certain level of scale? Was it just having gotten branding and customers and referrals? Like at what point did that switch happen for you? For most people, I think it's going to be more a financial switch. But I'm just curious when you realize, okay, I don't have to worry about the next deal anymore. Yeah. I'm more thinking 6, 8, 12, 18 months out.
I think it's 100 for me personally. It's 100% a financial thing. I know it's probably not the same for everyone. We are a bootstrap company that has not raised any funding. Probably for the tech round we will. But for me, it was when we had big enough checks literally like hit our account where I'm like, we're good for the next 5 months. As soon as that happened, I started swinging the bat so much bigger and started going after opportunities so much more. And so for me, it was like when I got to that like 5-month range where I'm like, everything's paid for the next 5 months, I could fuck up the next 3 and we're still good. Yeah. That's when I was able to swing the bat and see things further along. So for me, that was the biggest mode.
Going back to your journey for a bit, how did you go from teacher, real estate, to sales and Tony Robbins?
Yeah, man.
How does that journey happen? And also give context for what Tony Robbins, and I have some idea, but not everyone listening may not have an idea of. Brother, but like, how did that happen, and Also, barrier to entry, from my understanding, is pretty high for Tony Robbins. It's not like a $500 course that you can just take. But how was that journey? How did that happen?
I actually got this question last week, and I get emotional every time. But I was a teacher for 4 years. I was partying my face off on the weekends, and I've always been the hardest working and most driven person in all of the sports team I'm a smaller statured guy, so I think I probably had to in a lot of ways. My best friend had been trying to get me to go to a Tony Robbins seminar since college, but I didn't believe. I was so arrogant. I didn't believe that. I thought that getting help from somebody else or learning from other people made me weak, because I grew up in a very masculine environment, but an immature masculine environment where you had to pretend that you had it all figured out. Back in 2015-16 is when I was trying real estate on the side and doing all that kind of stuff. And I had gone through some pretty bad depression. For the first time in my life, I started questioning why live. It wasn't suicidal, but it was like the first time in my life I wasn't confident. I'm naturally confident, but the first time I started losing my thoughts. And I remember sitting on my bed one Wednesday afternoon, don't remember the exact date, and I'm laying in bed with Del Taco. I don't even remember the name of it, but it's 2 tacos, a burrito, French fries, and a large Coke. That's what I had in bed, eating it. 3:45, the lights are off, and I'm flipping through SportsCenter, hoping that there's like a game on, or hoping there's something that I like look. I don't know. I had a come to Jesus moment. I like looked down. And I just started crying. I was like, I'm not all right. Like, something's not all right. Like, what am I doing with my life? And that started me like starting to read all these different books. I actually couldn't get myself motivated to read at home, so I started packing a double bag, and I would go to the Newport Beach Public Library after school. I would shower and change at the school I taught at, drive straight to the Newport Beach Public Library, and I'd start to read books like Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the typical ones, the staples. Yeah. And then I found, I was like, maybe Chandler's right. And I started to look at YouTube videos of Tony Robbins. And that's when I was like, I can change my own life. And so I would stay at the Newport Beach Public Library until it closed every night. And I started reading like the basic things. And this is me where I'm really good at like just hearing something and implementing. Yeah. I think this is the differentiator for me personally, my X factor. But I would read, well, I don't even remember where I saw, but it was like, most billionaires wake up before 5 a.m. I'm like, well, shit, that's what I have to do. So I started waking up at 4:55 every morning, right? Because that's what a book told me to do. I don't know. And I had no one in my family that supported entrepreneurship, not because they just didn't know any, they didn't know. Yeah. So I'm like, all right. And I made an Excel sheet of my entire day. And I put in that Excel sheet every activity that I did through the day. I'd lost myself. I'm like, what makes me happy? What do I enjoy? What am I driven by? And I put in the Excel sheet every activity that I did from the day, like from when I woke up to how long it took me to get out of bed, to how long it took me to get out of the house. Did I shower in the morning? Did I not shower in the morning? I started doing cold showers, right? And like all the things. And then I'd write down on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy did this activity make me? From 1 to 10, how empowered or proud was I of this moment or things that I did? And I would do that every week, and I would rank all the activities that I did. And so I started ranking things and then deleting things off that list, rearranging things on that list. So instead of working out after school, now I worked out at 5:30 every morning before school. I hated it the first 3 months, but the feeling I got after changed my entire day. So I just reorganized my life. It started with the first thing that I did was just making my bed, proving to myself that I could keep a promise to myself because I was that low. And that started my journey of self-development. Then I told Chandler, my buddy, that I wanted to go to Tony Robbins seminar. He had a sales rep call me. Her name's Marshonda Henderson. She calls me while I'm at work. Work for me is wearing a straw hat, short shorts, a whistle, and a collared t-shirt. I was a PE teacher, man. And she calls me at work. I'm like, whatever, I don't care about this job anyways, And I answer the phone. She's like, Brian, this is Marshonda Henderson. Chandler told me a little bit about a story. I heard you want to go to the Tony Robbins seminar. What's the first question I asked?
How much is it?
Yep, because that's what poor people ask. They don't ask what they can get in return. They ask how much is it. And I asked how much was it. She told me the number. I hung up on her. What does a great salesperson do?
Call back.
She called me back. What did I do again?
Hung up on her.
So this happened over the course of like a week. And one time I was at recess, literally supervising kids at recess, and And she calls me. And she's like, Brian, you told me a little bit about your story. Let me ask you this question. Is what you're doing right now working for you? I'm like, no. She's like, well, why not try something different? I was like, because I can't. I don't have the money. At that time in my life, I didn't even own a credit card, bro. So I was just like, you have to have money in your bank account in order to do things. Like I just, I didn't know any better. And I remember hanging up the phone at recess, and I started shivering and just shaking. And I was so mad at myself. I'm like, when did you fucking become, and talking to myself at recess, but when did you become this guy that like just says he can't do stuff? Like, when did that happen? At this time in my life, I was scared to go into restaurants by myself, scared to go on hikes by myself, not because people would attack me, but because it's the social interaction part of it. And I was like, I gotta go. Next time I talk to her, all tickets are sold out. I'll fast forward. I end up getting tickets to go. I get to the Tony Robbins seminar. I'm in my Ford Ranger that has dents in it because I don't know how to, I was a reckless driver. And I get there, and I watch everyone go into this event. I'm sitting there in my car for 2.5 hours. The event has already started. I'm too scared to go in, bro. Because who goes in there by yourself? What a loser. Like, it felt like I was going to therapy and everyone knew it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I ended up mustered up the courage to go. One of the things that Tony says from stage is like, if you want to get to another level in your life, you got to model someone who's already gotten the results. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, remember the Pastor Fluke story? Someone changed my life through speaking and got me the chills. Tony's doing the same thing, but for 15, 16,000 entrepreneurs. He even says, how many of you in this room own your own business? 70% of the room are people who own their own business. I'm like, what the fuck? That many people own their own businesses? And here I am in a full suit. I'm the only guy that wears a full suit. I'm wearing a Ross suit because I can't afford a real suit. It's 3 sizes too big. Nobody else is wearing suits because it's a Tony Robbins seminar. You dress pretty like business casual, but not full suited. And I remember thinking to myself, everyone in here is a business owner except for like me. It felt like everyone else. And Tony says, you got to model someone who has it. I'm going to model him. He's changing all these people's lives. You could be a good person who makes a lot of money and changes people's lives. Yeah. That night I applied. I said, what's the best role that I can find in this company? It was become a national speaker for Tony Robbins. There's only six of them in the company. You get a company car, $250K with upside because you do your own sales as well. And I was like, that's the role. I applied for that role. I was dumb and naive, thinking maybe I'll get this thing. I get a call back from a guy named Brooke Bishop, who was running the hiring at the time. He's like, Brian, you actually fit the profile for someone. Can you do a personality test for us? I'm like, oh my God, I got an interview. I'm going to get the role. So I put in my resignation for teaching, and I start to apply to all these different companies, just as backup in case I don't get the Tony Robbins role. That Tony Robbins role, it took me 16 months, bro, of flying out to every single Tony Robbins seminar on my own dime, spending all of my own money. I go into software sales, become the #1 guy in California for that company. And I'm spending every one of my weekends, as many events as he was running at the time, going to Tony Robbins Center. I was literally, bro, the guy who would usher you to your seat just so I could be in the environment and meet the people at the company to try and work my way into this role. I went to 5-6 events over the course of 16 months, emailing, calling, going on lunch dinners, spending money, flying there, staring at Airbnbs before Tony's brother-in-law, who's the top guy in the company. I meet him for the first time. I shake his hand. His name's Scott. Shake his hand. My hand's shaking, bro. I meet him. I'm like, I'm the guy that's going to... I couldn't get the words out right. And he's like, hey, listen, if you were any good, I would have heard about you. I'm going to ask Brooke for your video because you have to submit videos. I'll ask Brooke for your video. If it's any good, I'll let you know. So I email him on Monday. He replies and says, not passionate enough, period. More time goes by, 3 or 4 months. They ghost me, bro, for like 3 or 4 months. I'm still at it. And then finally I go on a solo retreat. This is where thinking comes in. Going on a solo retreat for 2 weeks. I'm like, what am I going to do with my life? Like, if this doesn't work out.
And you're doing a job on the side at the time.
I'm doing a job on the side, bro. And finally I go to this event one more time. I'm like, that's it. I walk up to him. He ignores me. He's sitting at a table about the size of our
Tony or his brother?
Tony's brother-in-law. Yeah. Now, for those of you who aren't listening, it's about a 6-foot-long table. He's there doing sales for a platinum program. I'm standing at the table. I'm like, Scotty, I'm your guy. And he's ignoring me. Won't talk to me for like 5-10 minutes. He won't even look at me. I just don't leave the table. Then he walks over to me. He's like, "You're my guy." He's like, "I'm gonna do an audition for you in 2 weeks, a live audition." He told me at the time Tony would be on there. Tony didn't come to the live audition, but it's in 2 weeks. You got to memorize an 18-page script, single spaced. I had a hard time memorizing the 3-page one that you sent me. Bro.
Yeah.
Like, I was just honest with him. He's like, "Me too." So, long story longer, guys. My room that I was staying in is a 5-bedroom house with 6 guys in it. The room I stayed in, I plastered on the walls the entire speech and on poster boards. I'd read it before I go to bed. I would recite it, record it, and then listen to it at night while I'm sleeping. And then I would also, when I run on the treadmill or anytime I was in the car, listen over and over and over again. Got that audition. I was the first guy ever to get hired on the spot in the audition.
Nice.
Without getting rejected multiple times. 2 weeks later, I pack up everything I own, sell everything, and I'm on the road with Tony for 3.5 years from that point on. So got hired. 2 weeks later, I'm gone. Sold everything, and then for 3.5 years, I was on the road. So that's the start of the journey. For those of you who don't know what Tony Robbins is, it's self-education and self-development. So everything starts with human psychology. Tony's the psychology guy. He's the one that if you are not where you want to be financially, spiritually, physically, emotionally, relationship-wise, he breaks that down into the root cause of being human psychology. And he's the guy that Oprah Winfrey calls, U.S. presidents call when their psychology's messed up and they can't get themselves to take the appropriate action to break through on that. And so he does seminars to help people break through their limitations from a psychological perspective. And he coaches some of the elite people. Now he owns like over 110 different companies and does over $7 billion in revenue a year. But that's who Tony Robbins is. So as you can probably tell, a lot of my foundation comes from those experiences with Tony, and I've taken that and applied the foundation of human psychology into sales. And that's why Sell Up, our company, got founded and born.
What was, if you had to dumb it down to one key learning from your experience with Tony Robbins, or two, whatever, what would you say is one aspirational thing that you would like listeners to hear?
I got my favorite quote, which I think will expand on that.
Yeah. Favorite
quote is, "If you can't, you must."
Okay.
So if you're resisting something that you know you should be doing, you must do it. Take action anyways.
I could tell you like 4 things that I'm supposed to be doing, but
all of us.
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
that's one of our things we do in sales training.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We consider ourselves a Trojan horse. When I go into a company, most of the times the owners want their metrics to go up, right? So we teach our sales scripts. We personally write sales scripts for people. We train them on the entire sales process to improve performance. But one thing that we do is we have a week of really deep psychology work to help the human being break through. So on top of writing scripts and having the perfect sales process, the whole thing, we teach all that. But one thing that we do that most companies weren't prepared for us to do, but ends up being the most valuable thing they walk away with, is unlocking the human psychology of each sales professional is in there. So if I could break down aspirational thing for Tony, it's the only thing that is holding you back is something internal. And once you turn on something internal in yourself, anything in the external world is capable of being achieved. I'll give you an example.
100%.
Oprah, she shows up to all these different production agencies. They tell her she's the wrong color.
Yeah.
They tell her she's the wrong gender. She's the wrong size. She's the wrong everything. She was, abused as a child. All the things that would say that you're not the right person to be in these roles, but she did it anyways. How does that happen? How does an Oprah happen when there was no Oprah before?
Yeah.
There was no model for it. A deep belief inside someone. She didn't have the money. She didn't have the resources. She didn't have any of that. How many people do you know that don't have money, that come from terrible situations, that go farther in life than people who had everything hand-fed to them? How does that happen? Tony is the kind of person that can help unlock that in you.
You're now the third person I know who's talked about Tony Robbins, and every time I hear it, I'm like, maybe I should go check out a seminar. Maybe I should.
He's getting older, and he only does one Unleash the Power Within event a year now in the United States.
I think it was just live streamed.
He'll do the next one in November this year, and then the other one is Date with Destiny. That one is the 5K or more one. He has a business mastery one, which is like 10K or more, and then Unleash the Power Within usually is around $700 or more. I would recommend everyone do it in person if you can. The virtual one's cool, but I think in person gives you a better feel. This isn't a promo for Tony Robbins. He's a human being and he's not perfect. But I attribute my foundation from his teaching.
Why did you go from 3.5 years with Tony Robbins to starting your own venture? What was the catalyst for that?
Stop growing. I had reached the pinnacle. So I had broken sales records. Sold more in the state of Florida than anyone else had ever sold. I was the first person to join the company and hit their top tier within the first 3 months. I was the first person to get hired on the spot after their first session. So like I broke a lot of records. There's one record that I didn't break, and I went to Date with Destiny, his seminar, and I realized that I was chasing that one record because I wanted significance. I wanted to be important. But I realized that sometimes this is where competition to be the best isn't the best thing for you. I had set out to join Tony Robbins and stay there a max 2.5 years and then start my own company. And I had realized that I'd stayed for 3 years at that point, chasing another title or another record where the guy who broke that record had been with the company 10 plus years and had all the contacts to break that one. And I would have to stay longer to get to that role or to get to that record. And I realized that chasing the record wasn't chasing the best version of me. I had always wanted to be an entrepreneur and start my own company and create change in the world through the teachings that I was able to create and own my life, but also make a massive impact in the way that I believe was best for people. And I had reached the top of that career, and I could have kept being number one, and I decided that being number one at someone else's company wasn't being number one in my own life, so I decided to leave. Right in the middle of the pandemic when all shit hit the fan.
Was starting an agency as easy as you thought it would be, or what did that process?
Training company originally, so it's still a sales training company with a sales agency attached to it.
Yeah,
but absolutely not, because like I made enough money to pay my own bills, right? Like for example, on the way here I just closed the deal where it's a $20,000 speaking gig for 30 minutes. It's a keynote here in Austin. So like that kind of money is mind blowing to me 6.5 years ago when I was a teacher. That's like a third of my entire year's salary in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Mind blowing for me personally and personal income, right? Like compared to where I was. But now that's like 20K is like nothing compared to the company revenue that we need to grow this thing.
Yeah.
Right? So that realization settled in about 6 months in, where I'm like, I can always sell enough to survive for myself, but I'm not living life for myself. Like I envision a company where I have thousands of employees at a Christmas party and their families are fed and their children are fed and they are able to live the dreams that they want because the company was able to grow big enough to fit their dreams inside of it. That's the vision. And I realized that taking care of my own needs was nowhere near what is required to get there.
Makes sense. Was it daunting to leave Tony Robbins and be like, hey, I'm going to do my own thing, or were you pretty set on that path?
It took me 6 months to actually leave. And that's a pattern in my life that I've now eliminated. I realized it took me 4 years to leave teaching. It took me 16 months to get the Tony Robbins role and quit that software sales gig. And then it took me 6 months to leave Tony Robbins, even though I had made the decision mentally. And in an old relationship that I was in, I knew that I needed to leave the old relationship, but it took me about a year to do it. I think everyone can relate to that to some degree, that there's pending things in your mind that you know aren't good for you, or that you continue to do, or that you're not doing that you should be doing, and you just let them sit and sit and sit. I've now eliminated that pattern in life because I don't have a choice as a business owner. Because decisions I make today don't just impact me, and I'm not driven for. I love money, man, and I'm gonna continue to make a lot of money, but I am not driven by money. is the biggest realization that I've had as a business owner. I'm driven by other people succeeding. And now that my decisions don't just impact me, they impact other people, it's a whole nother fucking ballgame, bro. Like, I refuse to take time to make decisions that I know are good for the company.
Makes sense.
So it is daunting, because we're nowhere near where I know where we can be. Like, we will be the best sales company in the United States of America. We're nowhere near that yet. We got a lot of work to do, and I have no fucking clue how we're going to get there. Like, I know that we need to grow and we need to scale, and here's how we do it. This isn't how many customers we need. I know the playbook, but there are going to be things that I don't even comprehend 12 months from now that I'm going to need to learn. That's daunting. But I also know that if I don't do that, other people are going to hurt because of it, and I'm not willing to do that.
I like it. I really like your perspective on how that switched and how you're making those decisions. I think that's something I'm still struggling with in understanding. Do I make the right business decision? Do I make the right decision for myself or for my employees? And there's always some if here, there, and having that clarity, I think, is super important. And
can I give you some pushback on that?
Yeah.
I would argue that doing the best thing for your business is doing the best thing for your employee. Can I give you an example?
Yeah.
The best thing for the employee isn't always what they think is best. And I can see you shaking your head, so you know this, but they may want that role, they may want that opportunity, or they may want to keep the job that they're not qualified for or not producing for. Keeping them longer is preventing them from their true destiny.
100%.
And I didn't learn that until about 6 months ago. So that's a hard one for me because I'm very empathetic. So I'm like, oh, let me find the role for this person and let me continue to coach them and train them. And you can do that, and it's very, very crucial to develop people. And I'm still in the middle of understanding the perfect balance, so I don't have all the answers. But what I have come to realize is firing someone or removing someone from a position and giving them a different one may actually be the best thing for their development, not continue them on a path that they're not going to be successful at.
I agree. I 100% agree.
So I do think that doing the best thing for the business is, in the long term, not the short term, still doing the best thing for the individuals.
Yeah. I like that point of view.
And I'm open to being wrong. I might change, one day I could change that opinion, but right now that's what feels right.
Yeah. I think sometimes it's just harder to make some of the decisions where there's a lot of factors like firing someone from a position they're not fit for. I think those situations are not easy to deal with, and unless you really have solid clarity of what you're doing, why you made this decision, sometimes those situations get harder to handle. But I think it's a learning curve. I think it's a learning curve of having that end goal in mind and making sure you're making the right decisions to get to that end goal. Whether it's hard or not should not affect you making the decision, like you said. So I agree with that.
Cool.
Couple things I like asking guests. What are 3 resources or recommendations you have for someone listening early in their journey, gonna start their business soon or whatever their venture soon? What are 3 resources? And resources could be books, podcasts, blogs, whatever.
Number one, before resources, I would just say 80% of your time should be focused on revenue generating activities until you've reached about 5 to 10 million, depending on the industry that you're in. So your number one job as the business owner is to do whatever it takes to get more customers and learn from them. So resources, sales-wise, we're always happy to help. But I recommend reading psychology books. My favorite book of all time is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, because it tells a full story of an entrepreneur who battled for years before he broke through. When it comes to podcasts, I like PVD podcasts.
Patrick Bet-David.
Bet-David podcast, the ones that he talks about business. His new book's pretty decent. Your Next 5 Moves is pretty good. I recommend getting a coach or a mentor, but a coach who's been there. I know coaches don't always have to have been there, but they should have been there, or don't.
Yeah.
So a coach or a mentor. I recommend getting a coach or a mentor. I recommend finding a good podcast. Alex Hormozi's podcast is killer right now.
Yeah.
And then I recommend getting insatiably focused on the problem that you have and only digesting information that solves that problem. So I think a big thing that I'm learning right now is not to listen to everyone's opinion, but only a few people's opinions to model after, because there's a million different ways.
100%.
And then getting very focused on what is the first domino that's going to knock over the next 100 dominoes in your business. Getting insatiably focused on solving that problem only when it comes to like learning and growing. And then do your daily self-development and self-education work.
Yeah. Sweet. I love that. What's your startup stack or tech stack? How do you run and operate your business? Is there a certain set of tools and resources? So for example, some people are pure Google people. Some people have like Notion plus Jira plus whatever. What's your...
Yeah, our business is fairly simple, right? Because we're a sales training company, and then the agency is fairly simple. So our clients have their own tech stack, but we only take on the sales tech stack.
Yeah.
So we use HubSpot. It's the best CRM I've used. I've used Salesforce. I've used Go High Level. I've used Close. HubSpot seems to be the best for us. It's a little bit more pricey. They nickel and dime the hell out of you, but it's good. We use Calendly for scheduling. I recommend not using HubSpot scheduling, even though it's better for reporting. The reason being is because you want a scheduling service that only books within a certain time frame out, right? So speed to lead is very important. So if you're doing scheduled calls, you don't want them to book out more than 72 hours in advance. So we use Calendly. There's once hub and schedule once, and those work great. So having a scheduling software, a killer CRM that gives you great reporting so you can understand the metrics of where you're going. We use some video software like Vidyard and Loom, and then my buddy just came out with a new software called Clarity to send personalized videos during the sales process to people. That skyrockets your conversion rates or your response rates at the very least, which is biggest problem in sales is getting ghosted or not knowing why you lost the deal. So being able to send personalized videos, there's different types of videos that you can send, but selfie videos, proposal videos, trying to get in front of multiple decision maker videos, prospecting videos, so on and so forth. So videos work way better than anything else.
Nice.
We use G Drive, super simple. We're not at a spot yet. I think when we get to around 6 million, we're probably going to need like full-time Notion or something like that. But we don't have any crazy projects for the style of business we're doing now. When we bring on the college students, I think we're going to have to get very good at like project management. But for now, I'm not there yet.
I know a really good Notion and Monday person whenever you need that. Yeah. Whenever you need that.
That's not me. Yeah. So I need another leader in that space.
Okay, nice.
That's it, brother. We don't use any crazy technology.
Simple. I like it.
It is simple. We're salespeople, man. You can't give salespeople too many tools or they start to short circuit.
Well, I ask every guest to give me a question for some future guest. So the question for you, and I think you briefly touched this when we started talking, what is your mission in life, and when did you realize that that's your mission?
And then can I give you a question after that?
Yeah.
To empower people to live up to their full potential.
Okay.
But our company mission is empowering people to make life-changing decisions. So our company mission is pretty aligned with mine.
Yeah.
That's my life's mission.
I like it.
I believe that we're all here on this planet, no matter who you believe in or what God you believe in, or if you don't believe in one at all, we are all here, and you might as well help people while you're here.
100%.
And if you're not helping people, like a sale should be the most valuable part of that customer's experience. The transformation in a human being's life starts once they say yes in anything, whether it's weight loss, whether it's relationships, whether it's your business. The transformation starts when someone decides, and deciding means taking an action. When someone says yes, that's when the fucking shit starts. Until that happens, none of it matters. So I love sales because you have the opportunity to change the quality of someone's business or their personal life by getting them to say yes to themselves or to their business. I think that's transformational work, bro. It's not transactional. It's like you are setting this person on a whole new journey because you convince them of something.
Yeah.
Or you help them convince themselves. That is like the most important role of anyone's life, is to help people grow and develop. So
100%.
Delivering on expectations throughout the customer journey, incredibly important. But none of that happens until you get someone to a yes. So I think sales is the most important one. And then the question that I would ask you to maybe ask future customers is, what is the one thing that you're not doing that you should be doing?
Okay, I like it.
Or what is the one thing that you're doing that you should stop doing? Rocks people. Because most people aren't willing to share it.
Cool. But yeah, I got goosebumps like 3 or 4 times during the conversation, so really love the conversation. Is there anything you would like listeners to know, what you're doing, what you're building? Where can they find you? Where can they reach out to you if they want to reach out to you? Yeah. And I'll link everything, but...
Cool. Yeah, go to wesellup.com. Right there you can click and have a consultation with our team. If you mention that you're at this podcast, we're going to give you a free evaluation of your entire sales process. And we'll do it at no cost for the first 10 people. We can't do it for everyone or else we go bankrupt. For the first 10 people that reach out to us, if you say that you listen to us from this podcast, we're going to give that evaluation for you. We'll go through your entire sales process and we'll find gaps that will move the needle. I just got off a call literally on my drive over here for a guy. During the proposal stage of their business, they had a 65% fall off rate. Literally, this was 45 minutes ago, bro.
Yeah.
And it's because they're missing one thing. They're sending proposals with the dollar value on it instead of scheduling a meeting to walk through that proposal with the client.
Yeah.
This was a sales call, bro. I gave him the advice just to do that. This guy will end up spending a lot of money with us because I gave him value up front. But he solves that one thing in his business, bro. That is the difference between hundreds, if not millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, just that one switch. So if you allow us to go through your sales process, we'll find at least one of those things. And our rule at our company is if we don't provide at least $10,000 worth of value, we don't ask for the business. So allow us to give you $10,000 worth of value. Our feelings don't get hurt if you say no. Trust me. I've gotten rejected enough. I got said no, stood up at prom in 2008. I'm going to be all right, okay? But allow us to give you some value, because even if you say no to us, you're going to tell your friends about us. And that's the kind of life that we want to live. So
100%.
Allow us to go through a full evaluation, give you $10,000 worth of value. Mention that you're on this podcast so our team knows to do it at no cost for you. wesellup.com. That website's about to get turned over in a month. So let's pray that turnover goes well. But wesellup.com.
Okay, nice. Thanks. But thank you for coming on. I think we'll have to do a follow-up in a couple months and talk about agency building and where you are with the journey, how you go from 1 to 10. I think there's a lot of questions I have for you there, but thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on. Thank you for the amazing conversation.
Yeah, and thank you for the book.
It's my buddy's company. It's called 2X. He's based here in Austin, Texas. And his name is Austin Netzley. And they've helped a lot of my friends' companies 2X their revenue.
Okay.
I bought a couple extra copies, and I wanted to give you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.